What's up guys, Kyle here again, and it's time for another episode of FAQ'N Friday. Real quick before we jump into your guys' questions, I'm gonna ask a huge favor of you. I have been talking about doing drum related content on this channel for quite some time now, and a lot of you guys have expressed interest on it, but with the way YouTube works, the algorithm wants you to basically hyper focus on one thing, and if you stray from that, it kind of punishes you. So what I did is I just started a second channel for drum stuff. This second channel is gonna be way more chill. It's gonna be more of an outlet for me to do more creative stuff and not pump out so much guitar related content, but it's definitely going to be focused on drums. Now I'm not only gonna be focused on drum covers and playing drums, but a lot of it is going to focus on like my drum flipping deals, tuning drums, playing drums in the context of metal and hardcore and stuff like that. And you guys are also gonna watch me grow as a drummer with you guys because I am fairly new to drums, so I figured it would be a really fun thing that would kind of keep me motivated to stick with drums this time, as I really do love playing them. I just kind of lose motivation from time to time, but I think it'll be fun to dive into the drum deals, which is what my first video is. Do some awesome hardcore band drum covers because that's the type of music that I'm primarily into, and just pursue another one of my passions with you guys. So if you would, please check out that video if you're a drummer, if you're interested in drums. If you have drummer friends, share the video. It's gonna be down in the description, and I'm gonna put a card up here for you guys to click on it as well. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys for your support. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the questions for this week. First question comes from my man and longtime subscriber, Paul Natter, and he wrote a novel, but we're gonna go through it anyways. He says, Kyle, you've been a gear hunter collector for years. How do you compare gear hunting now compared to before the pandemic, to the start of the pandemic, during the pandemic, to now? I figure prices might have been pretty good at the start or a few months in, folks having to sell off gear to pay bills and such. Where do you see the gear market headed? Thank you for your question, Paul, and that is an awesome question. You guys know that I am always on the hunt for gear. I'm constantly buying, selling, trading up, flipping, all that stuff. So it's definitely something that I enjoy just as much as I do playing guitar. It's a big part of it for me. So yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, when the whole world kind of just halted, I noticed that a lot of people were selling a lot of stuff cheaply. And I think a lot of people were scared because they didn't know what was going to happen. And myself, I was a little hesitant to jump on some of the deals that I end up eventually jumping on, and just kind of, you know, I'm a bit of an impulsive person, so logic takes over a lot of the time, but every now and then my impulses get the best of me. So I did accrue a lot of gear at the beginning of the pandemic due to people selling at cheaper prices. I just kept finding deals and kept buying it. But man, that did not last very long because people got bored by being inside all the time, not being able to socialize with their friends, and kind of being stuck indoors because everybody was basically just trying to keep their distance from everyone. So a lot of people picked up new hobbies, and one of them being guitars and musical instruments and stuff. Talked to a lot of guys who said that they picked up a guitar during the pandemic just for something to do, something they've always been interested in but never had the time. Now you take that and you couple it with the manufacturing issues that we ran into during the pandemic, and all of a sudden you've got a new instrument shortage, and all of that gear that was so plentiful and so cheap on the used market dried up because people couldn't get new gear, so they went out and they bought used gear, and it literally just wiped the used gear market up, and prices skyrocketed on stuff. I mean, we've talked about it a number of times here on this channel, but the 5150 through the roof, the 5152 through the roof, even stuff like the JSX and the XXX, amps that I used to buy for 350 bucks all day long, now $650 amps. Amps like the dual and triple rectifier, 2 and 3 channel dual and triple rectifiers, on average I would buy them for $700-800 bucks, sell them for $900, maybe $1,000, or trade them up for something cool as well. Now dude, if I found a dual rectifier for $800, I would be calling that person's phone repeatedly until they answered and I could try to get it off of them, because 800 bucks is about half what a 2-channel dual rectifier goes for. $800 is about $500 less than a triple or a 3-channel rectifier goes for. Prices have just skyrocketed. If you look at anything in the Mark series, all of that stuff has gone through the roof. Now, I don't know if it's directly related to the pandemic. Some gear has caught some internet hype over the last couple of years. The original 5150 being one of those, 2-channel rectifiers being one of those things as well. But the Mark series, my lord. Mark III used to be an amp that nobody cared about, nobody wanted, I never heard anybody talk about. And now all of a sudden Mark IIIs are selling for $2 grand. It's absolutely insane to me what they're going for. But again, that's the power of the internet hype machine, you know, people getting behind certain amps. And I'm not saying these amps aren't good, because they are. They're very, very good. But you couple that with a lot of new people coming into the market looking to purchase gear, and you couple that with a manufacturing shortage where new gear is not plentifully available, it's going to create a chain effect where the prices on everything are just gonna go up. And in the process of that, certain older pieces of gear that people kind of just forgot about because there was so much other stuff to choose from, now have a light shone on them, shined on them, put on them, and it's kind of reintroduced them into the public eye, and just jacked the value through the roof. So it's kind of what we're dealing with. I have not seen prices go back down yet, and with inflation, I don't know that they ever will. So I kind of think that we went from one extreme to the other, where people were kind of panic selling off at whatever money that they could get for their gear at the beginning of this thing, because nobody knew how it was gonna play out. And now here we are 2 years into it, and gear prices and the price of everything really is through the roof. I don't wanna get into the politics of all that stuff, but I mean, it's just, that's what we're living with in the world right now, and gear is no exception. In fact, it was hit as hard, if not harder, than a lot of things. So yeah, that's my perspective on it. Motor Breath asks, opinion on the Fender Gym Root models. Greetings from Austria. Austria, eh? Let's put another shrimp on the Barbie. Thank you so much for your question, man. As far as my opinion on the Gym Root models, I was never really all that interested in them. I've never been a Fender guy. I'm not really a Slipknot fan. That doesn't mean I don't like them, I do. And I actually, as I have gotten older, I've come to appreciate them a lot more. But their signature gear is just never anything that I've lusted after, until that matte black Fender Gym Root Stratocaster came out. I was drooling over that thing when it was first released, and I still am. I'd still love to get my hands on that guitar because I think it's absolutely beautiful looking. It's brutal. I'm not really much of a Strat guy, but lately I've really been gravitating towards just simple matte black Strats with fixed bridges, and man, that thing fits all of those categories. I think it looks incredible. The only thing that sucks is it has EMGs in it. You guys know me, not the biggest fan of EMG pickups, but as long as there is a ground wire for the bridge in that thing, I could easily swap those pickups out of that pick guard and put something else in there more to my liking. So I've never played any of the Gym Root models, not even the Squires. I've had no interest in them. I've never got them here into my studio, AKA my basement. Never put hands on one to form an opinion, but from a mile away looking at them on the internet and seeing other people playing them, not really my thing up until that black one was released. And man, that black one came out and I was super interested. So if you guys see a really good deal on that one, you know who to hit up. Brandon Bryson asks, yo Kyle, what is your opinion on casters on a 4x12? Are they detrimental to the tone, or do you think ease of moving them is worth it? Brandon, that is a really good question, and I appreciate you leaving that one. As far as casters on a 4x12, you know what you should do is what I do. And I'm not saying you should do it because I do it and everything I do is right. That sounded really arrogant, but I got the track lock style casters. You can get them from Amazon. They're the ones that Bogner uses. They're the ones that Splon uses. And they're basically a cheaper version of the Mesa track lock casters, because the Mesa casters are the GOAT. Like, as far as casters on amps and cabs go, the Mesa track lock casters cannot be beat. They are extremely heavy duty. They are fantastic casters. The problem is it costs like $100 for a set of them, and I'm not paying $100 for a set of casters. Sorry, not gonna happen. So what I do is I get the reliable hardware version, which is what they are, which is a much cheaper version. The metal is much thinner, the casters are much cheaper, but to outfit an entire cab costs like $28 versus $100. So if you do end up breaking one of those plates or breaking one of those casters, you can get a replacement for cheap. I have had them on my Splon and Bogner cabs for years and have not had one of them go bad on me or fall apart in any manner, so I really like them. I'll put links to those down in the description so you guys can check them out. But the reason I mentioned track lock casters is because you can have your cab both ways. If you prefer your cab on the ground, you just tip it over, pop those casters right out, flip it back over, and now your cab is coupled to the ground. And there's a reason that people like their cabs on the ground more than they like them on casters a lot of the time. And that's because when the cab is closely coupled to the floor, it actually increases the bass response of the cab. I'm not sure of the science behind it. I've heard Dave Friedman talk about it a couple of times. It's why he doesn't put casters on his cabs from the factory, because he thinks they sound better, they sound beefier and more of a bass response when you couple the cab to the floor on the rubber feet. I myself personally tend to agree with him. I like getting that extra bass response, especially being somebody who plays an E standard, which is why I put the track lock casters on my cabs. And if I don't have the track lock casters on my cabs, then I have the Ernie Ball pop-out style casters. I like those too, but you have to drill holes into the bottom of the cab if they're not there already. But any style of caster that you can easily remove from the bottom of your cab without tools, you can wheel it to the show, you can pop those casters out. So you have the benefit of ease of portability by having casters on your cab, but you can also easily remove them and couple the cab to the floor if that is your preferred sound. A lot of people like the cab off the floor a little bit more on casters as it tightens the cab up. The bass response isn't as heavy. So it really is not a detriment to the tone. It is personal preference 100% of the way. And if you don't ever plan on taking your casters off your cab, you can get fixed casters and call it a day. Or if you want the benefit of having casters and having them be easily removable so you can do either way, get the track lock style casters I mentioned, and you get the best of both worlds. So that's my thoughts on it. All right, guys, this next question is from Neji H, and he asks, "Hi Kyle, I've started building myself a custom guitar and I'm trying to use a Duncan JB with a split coil tone pot for versatility. Have you ever considered making yourself a guitar, or have you done the split coil mod to any of your guitars? Greetings from Europe." Thank you for the question, and as always, man, you always leave great questions, so I appreciate you being here, appreciate you commenting on the videos and showing support for the channel. As far as your question, for split coil, not really something that I use. I really haven't used it for anything. I definitely have had guitars that have the Duncan JB, as well as many other pickups that come with the coil tapping or coil splitting. I know they're technically two different functions, but it doesn't matter to me because I don't use it. So I can't really comment on that, man, and I apologize. I don't really have any perspective on that. Belligerent amateur here, like I always tell you guys, I pretty much just set my amps up and set my guitars up the way that I'm going to play them and go. So I don't really mess around with that stuff too much. But as far as building my own custom guitar, I've thought about it a couple times, man, but it's just, I am such an ADD person. I say this all the time, but like I get ideas in my mind where I get really into something and then something else catches my attention and I'm on to the next thing. So I know if I started to build a guitar, I would probably get a quarter of the way through it and then I wouldn't touch it again for a year and forget everything that I learned about building guitars and have to relearn it all over again. And it would just be a long, slow, painful process that probably wouldn't be fruitful. On top of that, I'm not the most handy guy. I can learn quickly, but at the same time, I just don't have a lot of like woodworking or tool working skills and stuff like that. And even though a lot of my early professions were physical labor as opposed to the office job that I eventually ended up working, I didn't really ever work with tools. I didn't really ever create things all that often. So it's not something that I'm super comfortable with, but I do think it would be a cool project someday if I find myself in a position where I have the time to pursue it. But I think that that's awesome that you're building your own custom guitar, man. I urge you to stick with it if it's something that you really want to do. If you guys have anything that you really want to do and it's in the back of your mind, you should just do it because there's no better time than now to get out there and to do something that you really know in your heart you want to do. The longer you put it off, the more you're going to kick yourself for putting it off. And that's why I say, if you want to do it, get out there and do it, man. And that is my advice today from Kyle Bull, the belligerent amateur therapist. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for me today. Thank you so much for your questions. As always, put your questions for the next episode down in the description of this video, and I will be sure to get down there and answer as many of them as I can. The last FAQ got a lot of views, but not a lot of you guys left questions. So make sure to put your questions down there in the comments so I have some cool stuff to answer on the next episode. Again, do me a huge favor, check out my new drum channel. It's Kyle Bull, Belligerent Amateur Drumming. What else would I name it? That'll also be down in the description. And if you want to support the channel and support what I do here, in the description of this video are all my support links, including my Sweetwater affiliate link, my Patreon membership link, and you can consider becoming a member of the Belligerent Amateur community by joining my Discord group and my Facebook server, all down below in the description of this video. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next time. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. I keep forgetting all my taglines today. Ooh.